Hi, so quick video. There is no script for this, and I am recording it with my iPad mic, so, don't expect quality. I am testing this out right now, and if you guys, I'm not cutting that out. If you guys like this kind of video, and these kind of videos, I said the same thing basically twice, then let me know, and I will make more. Today, we are going to be talking about posing, specifically posing in Gary's mod, because that's where I'm, doing my stuff. However, this advice should apply to Source Filmmaker. This is not, technical stuff. This is more so just, how I do things and how to avoid what I like to call the uncanny valley, essentially. So, on the screen right now, I have two posed models. One of them is Pistachio, and the other one is my Agent 8 Libby. If you know my channel and know who I am, then you'll know who these two are. Now, these two, obviously are posed very differently. Pistachio on the left is how I typically pose models, and Libby on the right is typically how I see a lot of beginners pose models. Now, this is not a call-out post to anyone. I do not care if you pose this way, and if you enjoy doing things this way. I don't really care. That's, your prerogative. But if you would like to learn how I do things and possibly how to improve, your content creation, then, stick around. So, before I go into stuff, let's talk about how these two look and how they compare to each other. So, with Libby, I think the first thing you're going to notice is that this is very, very stiff. The arms seem unnatural, and then the tentacles are kind of defying gravity. There's not a whole lot of facial expressions, even though I did pose her face. So yeah, in general, very, stiff, very kind of not super expressive, even though you can kind of tell, well, she's looking down, maybe she's a bit sad. And then, obviously, if you go over and you look at Pistachio, there's kind of a range of motion. Now, I grabbed this off of Google Images. When you are drawing, one of the biggest advices that you will get is your characters need to be fluid. If one part of the body is moving a certain way, the rest of their body might be inclined to kind of follow or tilt that way. They're not stiff. If you raise your arm, your shoulder's going to kind of go up with it, right? And depending on how you're raising it, maybe your torso might lean to the opposite side. This is true in Source too. For example here, notice how Libby is leaning in slightly. One of her legs is extending outward, and the other one is kind of stumbled. I don't want to say folded, but backwards, kind of like she's trying to keep her balance, right? She's clearly, in an altercation ready to fight. You can get that from context clues, obviously. 4 is not super well posed here, so just ignore 4 for now. Lol. Now, you might be thinking, well, motion and range of motion is all fine, well and good, right? But these models are, stuck in their proportions, because you're not drawing. When you're an artist, you can edit the proportions however you'd like, depending on perspective. With these guys, they're in a fixed, kind of state. And also, you might be thinking, their proportions are kind of weird. That is true. These are models ripped and then kind of fixed up directly from the game. And so they're made to be put in a very specific kind of context and very specific kind of poses, right? If they're lying down, they're not really meant to be lying down. If they're sitting, they're not really meant to be sitting. There's tons of poses that are just going to look kind of off with these models. And to that, I say, yeah, sorry, you're just going to have to do your best. There is a silver lining, though, and that is because these models are used in a game with, pre-existing animations, this means that you can go into, like, footage of Splatoon and see how the animators of the game animated these models and worked with their proportions. Take notes. For, example, I'm playing a trailer clip here. Now, another thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to learn where your model's bones are. I know that sounds weird. Give me a second. So, here we have my OC4 being a wonderful sport for us. I have her in a T-pose right now, and I will show you why. It is because I am going to do this. Now, if you will look here, I have put dots on her. And the reason I did that is because, excluding the hair physics, these are Four's bones. And bones, essentially, I'm not sure if this was 100% correct, but they basically tell the model how to move. When you grab the model by the fizz gun, say you grab, Four's hand and, pose it, right? You're grabbing her hand bone, and no matter from what angle or where you grab it, you're always going to be grabbing that specific hand bone. It's not like you, grab that very specific point in the model. Knowing where your model's bones are is important because it will show you how they move, essentially. And this might not be 100% right. I probably could find a way to show where Four's bones actually are, but I'm not quite sure how to do that. But all you need to know is where these bones are, because it will give you an idea of where and how the model can move. But specifically, the reason this is important is because what I see a lot of people do is they will say they want to move an arm. They will free the arm from its, lock on the T-pose, and then they will grab the hand bone, and then wherever the rest of the model, kind of ragdolls is how it ragdolls. For example, this is me just posing the hand bone. Where her arm has fallen via the ragdoll physics is where her arm is in the image. I did not pose the rest of her because this is just a very specific example. Now, in certain contexts, you can use the ragdoll physics if you're using Gary's mod to kind of, for lack of a better term, guide things. If you have a character who's, falling, you might want to kind of abide by the physics a little bit, but what you're going to want to do is, I personally would pose every bone in the model's body except for the neck bone, and that is because your fizz gun is not going to be able to affect that neck bone. It is too small. It is in between two other bones. And yeah. But you can unfreeze it, and if you're not doing a standing thing, you most likely are going to want to unfreeze it. It kind of does get a little wonky when unfrozen. It should not be noticeable. The neck bone does kind of lock the torso in place a little bit. So if you have a character that's looking over their shoulder, whatever, it's not going to want to, move. For example, this is unused, but this is Stash with a unfrozen neck bone. So when the neck bone is, frozen, when you T-pose them, the head cannot turn back that far. So it does give the head more motion too. Be careful with an extended range of motion on the head, because you can very quickly make them twist their head out a little unnaturally. And squids technically do not have bones, but people won't be happy if you accidentally recreate a horror movie, unless you're trying to recreate a horror movie, but then it wouldn't be accidental and you're doing fine. Also, note here, she's looking back. You might be able to tell that I did kind of twist her torso a little bit. We have her foot kind of slightly angled back, like she might be about to, turn. Just something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind too is how the arms are. The arms of some of these models might have a tendency to kind of twist in a way that's not supernatural for the rest of them. And that can lead to some weird kind of clipping slash a kind of like twisted look. It can also lead to some like clipping in the armpit area. You might be able to notice like a little dot on, you know, 4's model there. What I would do is I would go in and I would make sure that those arm bones are kind of like twisted in a way so that they kind of fit into place. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but there is like a way they look when they're aligned, and you'll know it when you see it. It may require some slight repositioning of the specific pose in the area affected, and even when fixed, it may look a little weird. This is where you might try to hide it with camera angles, or just kind of be like, hey, the source engine's kind of screwy, you know, sorry, and just kind of like give up, because you will have to accept some limitations and some things being off. Your goal is to try to hide those off things, but sometimes it's like, well, the shot won't really work in any other angle, so we're just gonna have to hope nobody notices. It is fine. To wrap up this video, let me explain how to pose octoling tentacles, and let's fix Libby. Note here how I go back over on the legs and I kind of touch them and I make sure it's okay, and I let physics kind of guide me, but I, you know, make my own alterations to make sure everything looks natural and everything aligns. Notice how I'm fixing the shoulders, and how I kind of like experiment a little bit. I circle the model, make sure that it looks good from, you know, all sorts of different little angles. This is personal preference. I don't like the way the sad face pose looks. I would quite personally use board. You do not have to have these sliders up all the way. Just know that there might be some clipping on the octoling eyebrows if you do like only have it like part way. I see a lot of people not really pose the octoling tentacles, which is a shame because you can actually be very precise with them. And you're not really bound by physics, so you can, you know, kind of edit them how you really want. It makes it look a lot better overall to edit those bones, so it is worth it. There was an update that came out for the eye poser today. I actually rolled back because I don't like the new method, but it is more precise and I do recommend you use it. I am just not good with change and I didn't want to learn the new method, so, but there you go. That is my quick tutorial for posing. Let me know if you guys like these kind of videos. They're incredibly like low effort to make. And, you know, next time maybe I'll cover lighting or like full scene posing. It depends on which one you guys would be the most interested in. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys later.